welcome back to How to Learn a Language. This is our final interview in the series, and I say interview, this one is a little bit different. When I first spoke to Pedro, I knew that I wanted to talk about Portuguese. So Pedro runs Portuguesepedia, which is a phenomenal resource. Definitely go and check that out if you're learning Portuguese. There's just so much good stuff there. And I thought, let's talk about something Portuguese. Let's make this almost like a lesson. So you'll see as we go, this kind of evolves into a bit of a lesson as we go. So sometimes this was a bit unplanned in quite the way we end up doing it. So sometimes things end up on the whiteboard a little bit delayed because I'm taking them from the chat and copying them out. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. And our focus is on Portuguese pronunciation, in particular European Portuguese. But we do discuss at the beginning a little bit of those differences that you might expect, that you might come across with Brazilian and with European Portuguese. And yeah, I think you'll enjoy this one. All right, enjoy. Pedro, hello, welcome. Olá, I should say. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem, obrigado. Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And it's I really want to talk to more language specialists, language teachers this year and dig into those difficult points that lots
Mm.
and lots of learners face. And so when we connected and you are Portuguese teacher, I thought, okay, let's start here. This is
Yeah,
we're gonna dive into this. But first, before we do, in fact, what we're going to talk about, I should say that first, is pronunciation. I asked on Instagram, this was the thing that came up again and again, pronunciation and accent. I was like, okay, this is what we'd suspected and what we wanted to discuss, and also what people want to hear about. So that's what we'll discuss. And before we do, I do want to give you a brief chance to just introduce yourself.
yeah, sure. I'm Pedro. I'm from Portugal. So the Portuguese I teach is like European Portuguese for the most part. I'm not living in Portugal. I'm living in Sweden. I've been living in Sweden for a long time, and actually, an important part of me getting into language and language teaching because I've learned Swedish from scratch as an adult, and I became interested in language learning back then. And eventually I started to teach Portuguese here in Sweden, and then, things moved on, and I started blogging first, and now I have like a membership site. It's Portuguesepedia.com, and yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of content for people to practice on European Portuguese. So, in a nutshell, basically that's it.
It's so thorough, such a good
Mm.
resource. When I first went onto the website, I was like, oh, how this is huge. There's just so much good stuff
Yeah,
there.
so much
Yeah.
work too. It's a lot of
Yeah, I'll
content,
bet.
and it's me producing all content. It's me managing the platform. There's a lot of time going into. There's a learning curve when it comes to, building a website, how to marketing a website, how to, all those things. So it's been a fascinating journey, but a lot of work. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
And you mentioned as well that what you teach, obviously being from Portugal, is European Portuguese. And this is perhaps an interesting start point in terms of pronunciation, because something that I notice a lot more with Portuguese than any other language is the divide and the distinction that's made as a learner between Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese. I just don't see it to that same extent with other languages. With Spanish, you might get Spanish from, European Spanish and then Latin American Spanish, which is obviously in itself a vast mix of accents and dialects and all sorts of ways of speaking, but it just gets put as Latin American. And
Right.
so I wonder, in terms of what we're going to talk about today, pronunciation with Brazilian and with European, is there a massive distinction?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think pronunciation plays a key part in that
Mm,
distinction, that divide. So, of course, there are it's different standards, and you have specific idiomatic expressions, for example, on either side of the Atlantic, obviously. But pronunciation, so European Portuguese in general, people, it's a Romance language. But people, they get a little bit confused because it sounds Slavic. Sometimes people will, oh, it's kind of Russian. I mean, we have a lot of
Really?
sh, we have our vowel sounds are very closed. We have a lot of nasal sounds. Uh, there are some phonetic features that they stand out if we think about other Romance languages such as Spanish or Italian. And what happens between European Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese is that they don't have this sh all the time. So if I say estás bom, vamos, this is European version, I have a lot of sh at the end of words. Any word ending with a S will be sh sound, and they have more s, vamos. I say vamos,
Mm.
they say vamos. And vowel sounds, for example, they open up more the vowel sounds. It's easier maybe for a language learner to hear the syllables more clearly in Brazilian Portuguese than it is in European Portuguese.
Mm.
So I think pronunciation it plays a big part in it, and you have this thing, between natives. For us, it's much easier to understand Brazilian Portuguese than the other way around, and this is why, because we have these more closed vowel sounds, and maybe they are troubled sometimes to understand us. So imagine language learners.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
That
And
is
so I normally say,
interesting.
normally I mean, obviously, if someone is learning Portuguese because planning to go to Brazil, or Brazilian friends, or a Brazilian lover, it's obvious you want to learn Brazilian Portuguese. I mean, if you can choose, and the other way around. But if you are, like you don't know, you just want to learn Portuguese,
Mm.
I usually well, then learn European Portuguese, because if you learn this standard, then you can easily understand. It's easier than to dive into Brazilian Portuguese than the other way around. Uh,
That's reassuring to hear
mm,
because, yeah, this is something. My Portuguese is very much on an island in the middle of the Atlantic, where I started. I had tutors from both Portugal and Brazil, but probably more from Brazil. So it's this mix, and yeah, I'm excited for myself as well to learn today. Like, let's get this down in terms of European Portuguese. What are those tricky pronunciation things that people struggle with, that learners struggle with? So yeah, let's get started. You mentioned that at the end of like vamos, so that sh, maybe that's a good place to start.
yeah. So for instance, we have, like in English, our way to the plurals, how we form plurals is with s at the end,
Mm.
right? So that's the standard, and so s at the end, it's always sh sound, and so any word said in plural will be sh. Todos, carros. This is cars. But there are other spelling patterns that will produce this sh sound, and so it will be very prominent. Sh, sh, sh. So if I say a sentence, todos os dias eu como duas maçãs, so every day I eat two apples.
Mm.
Todos os dias eu como duas maçãs. And again, in Brazilian Portuguese, if we keep comparing a little bit, it would be more soft. Todos os dias eu como duas maçãs. And
Mm.
you
Mm.
are also now hearing the vowel sounds more close in European. Todos os dias eu como duas maçãs. Todos os dias eu como duas maçãs. So yeah, sh sh sh.
Can we write this down if I bring up a whiteboard so we can
Yeah,
see as
sure.
I think that would be really useful. That's a good example sentence. We got four with the
Yeah,
same thing. Okay.
yeah,
Todos os dias eu como maçãs.
exactly. So every day I eat apples. So it just stands out the sh.
Mm.
Yeah,
There's some other stuff here as well, like instantly as a notorious language lover of language scripts, shall we say, I'm noticing this and I'm noticing this in apples.
yeah. So that's a little crook under the sea is just to it's telling you that that sound will be s, not k. So in English, for example, you know that if a C is followed by A or O, I think I'm not saying anything wrong. In principle, the sound will be k, k, k. Come here, come, right?
Yeah,
But if it is
catch.
followed
Yeah.
by E or I, it will be s, s, s. And that
Mm.
pattern it holds for Portuguese and for many other languages. And that's little thing under the sea is just it's called a cedilla. It's just telling you that though it is followed by a, the sound will be s, not k. So it's not macash, but it's massage. Okay.
Mhm.
So it only makes sense to have that cedilla when C is followed by A or O or U. When C it's supposed to sound k, 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 k. Then, sometimes you want it to sound like S, and then you have to put that little cedilla under, okay? And yeah, and this is like its heritage from the Moors, that they were in Portugal for a long time, and it comes from there. Um, then you also underline the A with a tilde. I think you meant that.
Mm.
And that tilde, it's doing two things there. It's marking the stress. So the stress is on the last syllable. And it's also telling you that we'll have a nasal vowel sound. Okay?
My favorite
So
thing about Portuguese.
maçãs, ãs, yeah. And that's another phonetic trait of Portuguese. European and Brazilian. Here, there's no big distinction. Maybe they even mark more the nasal sounds. There's a lot of nasal sounds, and there's like consonant nasal sounds, vowel nasal sounds. Then there are nasal diphthongs, like all the oing. If you want, we can dive into that too.
Mm.
But nasal sounds it's big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
I do love the nasals. That is one of my favorites. I always end up kind of doing this with my hand, curving around in my nose to remind me
Yeah,
that bring it up here.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So which letters get a nasal or
Okay,
could get a nasal?
right. So, for example, any word finishing with M, as in tudo bem, right?
Okay.
So
So
that's
M, but only when it's at the end.
at the end. At the end.
Right. So for example, where we've got eu como,
So como, it's the
no,
normal the M sound people are used to, right? M,
cool.
m. We close our lips and then m. But in exactly in tudo bem, right? In
Mm,
tudo bem, as I'm seeing now on the screen,
yeah.
that's M is at the end, right? And do you want me? Sorry, do you want me to wait while you are coloring the M?
No, it's all
No,
good. You don't
I
need to
just
wait for
keep
me to
talking.
color
Yeah.
the M. Keep
Okay. All
going.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So in that little phrase, to the bang M at the end, then we don't want to say the M sound. It's not to the bang like people will say at the beginning. It's more to the bang, and this is a nasal sound. So my lips, they are not closing. Look, to the bang. My mouth is open. It's just a nasal sound. So the airflow comes through your nose, or partially at least. And that's the case for any word ending with M. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have all those vowel nasal sounds. For example, this word então. This is a so, então.
Okay.
That's N followed by T. Well, in English, we have the ENG, right? Ing. It's very similar. It's also a nasal sound. It's a vowel nasal sound. So it's a ang, right? Ang. And then we have, so that's the first part, the first syllable. That's a nasal sound there, ang. And then we have the second syllable, ang, ang. This is a diphthong. A diphthong, of course, for your listeners that can't remember what a diphthong is basically is like a two vowel sounds from one sound to the other. So if we have a non-nasal diphthong, like Rachel, the name Rachel, we say the sound A. We go from A to A. But in this case, so that's a diphthong. But in this case, it's nasal. Então. Yeah.
It barely gets to the mouth.
Yeah, yeah. The first A ain't this is normal, but then it shifts to nasal. A classic então is John in Portuguese. People will struggle to pronounce John in Portuguese. João.
João.
Yeah, João.
João.
So if you say, for example, lemon, it will be
limão.
Limão.
Limão. Limão. Limão.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add
and
one.
so people need to drill a little bit these nasal sounds. Yeah, it helps, you it's a little bit nerdy, but it really helps if you take some time to drill even just hold it there. If you pinch your nose,
feel the vibration.
If you are doing it right, and then you pinch your nose, you will know it because you can't go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip. And so does every vowel.
Pronunciation, people sometimes forget, but pronunciation is a physical phenomena, right? It's physical. Like we have our vocal tract, we have our vocal cords, we have our tongue, our palate, our teeth, our lips, and all happens here in this part, and it's all physical, our nose. And so it's good that people connect with the physicality of pronunciation and pay more attention. People that want, I think pronunciation it's big when it comes to language learning. This is my opinion. It will just open up. It will make things much easier on the medium term and long run. And so I'm very I very much advise people to invest a little bit on pronunciation from day one. And then that is helpful to remind yourself that it's a physical phenomena and you should connect with your body, in this case with your vocal tract, and like keep an eye on what's going on there, right? And so in this case, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because the obvious is that it helps with speaking, but it also helps with listening, because the more time you're spending with those sounds, when you then come across them sort of in the wild, if you like, as you hear stuff as well, oh, I know that sound. I know what word that's from, So it helps in both of those skill sets.
Totally, totally. Those
Mm,
are interconnected. You can't just tease them apart. Like
no.
your ability to make one sound. I mean, if that sound is not in your mother tongue, and if you can't make it, probably you won't be able to listen, really to listen that sound. So I have a good example. So in Swedish, there are vowel sounds that are not present in Portuguese or in English. We have like the oh, and you know, in the beginning, I was not really listening the sound. My brain was mapping on the closest sound I had registered in
Mm,
my brain,
mm,
and so my pronunciation was just a reflex of that. So I was not pronouncing it well. I was pronouncing with the closest sound that I could hear. And it really took some time. And I was not, when I was learning, this is like 11 years ago, I was not really focusing on pronunciation. I was focusing much more on grammar and vocab and that kind of things. And so it took me a long time to really be able to hear the sounds and then be able to make those sounds.
mm,
Um, and that's why I think, you know, also from my personal experience, that pronunciation is key. The more you can tune into the sound system of your target language, the sooner you will be able to speak, you know, with confidence and with better pronunciation. Everything gets easier because then if you're talking to some friend native, it will also be more pleasant, the conversation overall for everyone, right? And you will feel more confident and, you know, you want more and more. You want to
mm.
speak more with people. So it's like a virtuous circle. And yeah, and pronunciation will just facilitate that. Um,
I
yeah,
had one question about
yeah,
the ow.
yeah.
Um, does it appear or can it appear on every vowel, the A, E, I, O, U? Can you get a nasal version of each of them?
Yeah, so if I got your question, so when you have this spelling AO with a tilde on it, then it's always M. Was that the question or?
No, I mean like the sort of five vowels of A, E, I, O, U in English pronunciation.
Yeah.
Could
Oh, they
each
all
of
have their
those, they
nasal
all have a
variants.
nasal version?
Yeah, but that is in terms of spelling is very easy to spot because it's your
Yeah.
ing kind of thing. So any vowel being followed by n or m will produce a vowel nasal sound. So we have the example in ein town. So that first syllable, ang. But if I write this word impossible, impossível, and
Mm,
so
okay.
that's yeah. So in impossível we have I being followed by M, and so the I in Portuguese is E. In this case, will be in. So it will be the nasal version of that
Mhm.
sound. So if I write this word tanto, so then that first
On the
syllable
A.
we have on the A, so A followed by N, we'll get the vowel sound, the nasal vowel sound, as opposed to we get tanto, right?
And I think I have one final question on the nasal point. Is it just M and N that have
Yeah,
that effect?
yeah, so exactly. So vowels being followed by N or M, and then also there are this case, for example, in sister,
Ah.
Irmã. Or we also saw a, before the word maçã, the first
Hmm.
example I gave. So maçã is apple, irmã is sister. And both those words have the tilde on the A, and then, yeah,
Mm,
it's A.
mm,
And in
mm,
this case, it will be a nasal vowel sound. So it's not irmã, it's irmã.
okay.
Maçã, okay? So those are the spellings for vowel nasal sounds, not diphthongs here. It's just vowel nasal sounds. So either any vowel followed by N or M, or A at the end with a tilde on it, then it's a nasal sound.
That's what we're going to get. Okay. You've also led me nicely to a next question. I'm going to just clear the board so we can focus on the next bit. This one, I'm going to attempt to say it.
Yeah.
Impossível.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So am I
Yeah.
right in thinking that this here, I'll highlight it in a different color, that is a, sort of an indicator of stress. Like I'm bringing that knowledge in from like Spanish, French,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So word stress in Portuguese is very consistent, actually. And yeah, you are right. So what happens is that by default, words are stressed on the next to last syllable. So in this case, that's not the case in this word because then there are exceptions. And so one of the exceptions is words ending with L, like impossível. Then the stress is on the last syllable. And that's what that accent mark is doing there, is telling you, okay, though the word ends with L, you should stress on the last syllable, but we want to stress it on the next to last syllable, and then we mark it, with the accent mark. So without the accent mark, the way you read this word is impossível, impossível. Okay, we are stressing the last syllable, impossível. But the pronunciation is impossível. And therefore the accent mark. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's
So
doing what I thought.
and by the way, in Portuguese, so I know that in French and other languages, Italian, there are both directions, the accent mark, right? And in Portuguese, we also have the other direction, but that's not like to mark word stress. We just use this. That one will be to mark contractions because we have contractions between prepositions and articles.
Okay.
And so an example.
Let's go down. Yeah, let's go there.
Okay. So for example, this here, it's just a is a contraction between. Where is my plus? So it's marking a contraction between as a preposition and as an article. So I'm giving an example. This phrase vou à feira. This is I'm going to the market. Vou à feira. That a is a contraction, and in that a we have the preposition of movement. I'm going to. And then you have the article, the definite article, the market. You see, feira is a feminine word, and we bring on gender too. So feira is a feminine word. So we have vou a, I'm going to, and then the market, a feira, and a plus a is a, and also the pronunciation, because the basic form of this preposition is just we say but with a contraction the sound will open up. So plus it's intuitive also because there are two a's. So vou à feira.
Vou à feira.
Right.
Vou à feira.
And yeah, and this is back to the accent mark because we were talking about that. So this is the only case when we use the accent mark that direction, because otherwise word stress is always the other way.
Okay, that's good to know. I don't know if I've ever been taught that before, so I'm learning. This is great. Actually, this is a good sentence to take us on to a next topic. So we have this vou à feira. I know you mentioned earlier about diphthongs, and I'm wondering about sort of double vowel sounds. Are there
Yeah.
any
So
things that we need to look out for there?
yeah, so these are also diphthongs. The difference is that they are oral, they are not nasal, right? So the first one is vou, depending on if you are from the north or south of Portugal. I come from the north, so I tend to say the diphthong o, vou. In Lisbon, they will say more o, vo, without
Mm.
diphthong. But yeah, let's say it's a diphthong o, o. The other one in market feira is a. But again, the difference comparing to the we saw before is that these are just normal, non-nasal, just
Mm.
oral
Mm.
diphthongs. And so if you see
They're
two
not too bad.
vowels together, if you see two vowels together, then chances are it will be a diphthong.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Cool. All right. Hey. Okay. What next? What haven't we discussed yet that is like
Oh,
top of
so
the
many
list?
things, so many things. I mean, with pronunciation, so one sound that's I will focus a little bit on sounds that students, learners tend to struggle a little bit with.
Yeah.
One is this LH sound in
Oh,
Portuguese. I don't know if you've noticed before. Uh, so,
yes.
for example, let me think of a word. Oh, let's go with garlic. Do you like garlic?
Okay. Yeah, of
So
course.
garlic in Portuguese is alho. And so this LH, it's called what we call a digraph. It's when like two letters, they stand for one sound only, right? So
Mm.
LH, it always stands for the same sound, and that's lhe, alho.
Lie.
Can you say the
Alho.
word alho? Say it again.
Alho.
Yeah, you are quite good. And people they struggle a little bit with this l and l, so they tend to just pronounce a l sound, l, alo, you know, alo.
Mm.
Um, so this is I've noticed um, a tends to be a difficult sound. So you have to pronounce this l. You have somehow to stretch your lips and to push a little bit the tip of your tongue up against your palate, and then yeah, and then you release it. Alho, alho.
Lio.
Yeah,
Alio.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
I find maybe in all languages that when there is a new to me double consonant, it's sometimes harder than the double vowels because with a vowel at least you can kind of guess. When it's a double consonant, sometimes like I look at this and think, whoa, LH. I've never seen an L and a H next to each other. Like, it's so unusual in
Yeah,
my own language that then takes a bit more getting used to sometimes. You sort of
yeah, that's right.
don't associate those letters together.
That's right. You need some exposure, and eventually then you'll get it. But those
Mm.
patterns, they are also important. Another one is NH.
NH, okay.
Yeah. And that will be the ñ sound. For example, this word ninho. Do you know what ninho is?
Guessing it means child.
That's in Spanish. Yes, it's a false friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a false friend.
It's a false
Um,
friend, yeah. This is
oh, now I
nest.
don't know.
Nest in Portuguese. Nest is a nest.
Nest. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Actually,
yeah.
yeah,
But
it's similar
yeah,
to the
but
Spanish.
for people that know some Spanish, so this is it's equivalent of the N with a tilde on. Like niño in Spanish, it's child. If you remember the spelling, is N with a tilde on it. And so
Mm,
it's the same sound. It's just that our spelling is different. It's with NH,
okay. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting actually with Spanish, with both of these words, with garlic as well, because I think of it as like ajo with a J. And sort of that helps because then I can picture, oh yeah, the H. I need that H with the L, not just allo in Portuguese. I need to put the H in. And can you say the NH again?
Inhe,
Yeah, yeah.
inhe.
Is that a
Yeah,
nasal?
yeah, it's a nasal
Hmm.
consonant sound. Inhe. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And speaking
Niño.
of the H, it's always good to remember or to keep in mind that H otherwise is silent in Portuguese as it is in Spanish. So words starting with H like hospital, right? This is a cognate, so it's
Mm.
hospital. But you know, we just say uh, hospital as if the H was not there,
Mm.
or hotel.
Mm. Just
Um,
at the beginning of words?
yeah, it's just the H appears either at the beginning of words and then it's silent, or appears in those digraphs as in LH and
Right.
NH. But then it's just the unit, the sound unit, L and N. But otherwise, like
Mm.
as a standalone at the beginning, that's where you see the H. And then it's silent, right?
Mm.
It's
Mm.
there just because etymology, right? You know, but
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's silent. Mm,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
also good to know. So there's
yeah,
no more double consonants that we need to know.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and
we've got more. Okay, go on.
yeah. I mean, we have the double S. You see
Ah.
a lot. I mean, it's a double. It's the same consonant. It's a double consonant, and it's interesting because in Portuguese, like if you have, so there's also it's redundancy in terms of spellings and pronunciation. So when I say redundancy here is that you have different spellings to produce the same sound, basically. It's not one-to-one relationship, and the other way around. You have different sounds sometimes, and it's just one spelling, and so you have to figure out those patterns, right? And that's very
Mhm.
much the case for Portuguese. There are languages more straightforward in that relationship. So double S, it's always sound, and we need it because this word here, which I
Mm.
probably you know what it is, casa,
Yes.
yeah. So
House.
casa, house. So whenever you see S in between vowels, the sound will be a voiced sound, zzz, as in zest,
Casa.
right? Zzz.
Casa.
Yeah. Casa. Zzz. You feel your
Mm.
vocal cords, they vibrate. Casa,
Mm.
if you put
Mm.
your hand here. Um, and that's the pattern is so S in between vowels. Zzz. With double S, it's always so sometimes, you know, whenever you want a sound in between vowels, then you use double S, as in uh, birds, pássaro.
Oh. Pássaro.
Yeah,
Pássaro.
that's bird. So
Mm.
if you don't use double S in this word pássaro, then you will pronounce pássaro, pássaro. But it's not pássaro, it's pássaro.
I have a follow-on
Pás,
question.
yeah,
How, I don't know if it's a real word, but how would I pronounce this?
casa,
And
casa.
can you
It's
say the
it's
top
it's
one again?
it's a made-up word. So, but
Yeah.
but it's the pronunciation. It doesn't matter. The pronunciation would be z. It would be the same pronunciation. So S in between vowels is like a Z sound. So casa, casa.
Mhm.
There's no difference in pronunciation between those two words. So that's
Okay.
what I was talking about. There's redundancy in Portuguese in terms of spellings and sounds because we also have the Z and we use the Z too. But again, this is connects back to etymology. That's why we have redundancy. It's difficult to all of a sudden just start changing spellings
Don't worry,
it doesn't work like
English
that.
native
Yeah,
speaker here. I get
it's
the
hopeless.
redundancy.
English is hopeless. I mean, in
Yeah,
terms of
it's a
that
mess.
relationship, it's a mess. I mean, you just know
Yeah,
it, right? And
yeah.
those learning English as a second language, well, good luck with that. It's a mess. Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah. So that's the case too. So S in between vowels, Z. Yeah. And then
Okay.
also, like if we are on S, then S words starting with S, like
Ooh,
bell, sino.
okay.
So S at the beginning will be S also. And finally, going to our example at the start of this conversation, S at the end
Mm.
will be sh, as in todos, all. So S produces three sounds, either S at the beginning, for example,
Mm.
right? Z in between vowels, and then sh at the end of words. This is one of those examples that we have one letter and three sounds
Mm.
with one letter, depending on the position in the word and things like that. Yeah.
Do you ever get written an S and a H next to one another?
No,
No, that
no,
doesn't
that would
happen.
be your sh in English, but no, we don't have it. No, no.
Okay.
But we have like now that you said that we are talking about digraphs, two letters. That's our
Mm.
thread here, and we have this one,
Okay.
which is our sh. I mean, in English, sh in
Ah.
Portuguese is ch, which always stands for the same sound. Let me think of an example. This is a verb, achar, to think. I think
Uhum.
that eu acho que,
Acho,
yeah,
eu acho
acho,
que.
so it's ch, sh, always, no exception.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay. And there's only one way for that to sound.
Yeah, always sh.
Mm.
There's no other alternative.
Okay.
Whenever you see ch, it's just one sound there.
Mm.
So
Mm.
yeah, you put them all in green. So H can be LH, L, NH, N, CH, sh, and then again H at the beginning, standalone, no sound.
Mm. Mm. Cool.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
if just to finish the digraphs, we have double R.
okay.
And double R is similar to a double S. So if I have these two words, so the first one is caro, the second one is carro, and these are the two R sounds we have in Portuguese. So the first one,
Could you say that one more
caro,
time?
yeah, the first one is caro. This is expensive in Portuguese, caro, and it's called the flip R because your tongue just or the tap R it flips once only. Caro, ru, 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 ru.
Okay.
In
Claro.
American English, not in British English. In American English, words like saddle or subtle, you have kind of that
Subtle.
flip. R,
Ru.
r, r.
Caro.
It's
Caro.
the same
Caro.
sound. Yeah, caro. Yeah.
Subtle. Caro. Okay.
Yeah. But then we also have this throaty R, r,
Ooh.
and then yeah,
Hold on. What was
r.
that?
Yeah, it's more here in the back. Carro, carro, r,
Carro,
r. Yeah,
carro,
yeah,
carro.
yeah.
Okay, it's hard individually, that sound, but
This
in
will
the word.
be easy for the French.
Okay,
They have this
that's
r
the
sound too. Yeah,
okay. Carro,
yeah.
carro.
But you see, in so R at the beginning is also the same sound. So the word Ricardo, the name Ricardo, So R at the beginning will also be this like throaty R. Ricardo.
So one single R at the start of a word,
At
pronounced
the
the
start,
same as a double R
as a double
only at the
R
start.
in between
Yeah.
vowels. So double
Okay.
R always in between vowels will be at the start, the same. And you see, like the Spanish, for example, Spaniards, they don't have this they have the trill R. Ricardo, Ricardo. We don't have the trill. We either have like a single flip, the tap R, as in caro, expensive, or the second R in Ricardo, Ricardo. Or we
Can we
have
put these into a
the
sentence? Because I see it. Can we say
yeah,
Ricardo buys an expensive car?
yes. O Ricardo, that's a good one. Compra carro caro.
Aha, okay. I'm gonna give it a go. Let's
Yeah.
put it here. Stretch my little box.
There's a lot
Oops.
of R's here. Yeah. That's a very
Yeah.
good example.
All right, let's see. Okay, so I want to highlight everything before we begin, so I know what to look out for. Never mind, that's not going to work. Okay. O Ricardo compra carro caro.
Is exactly. So you see you have o Ricardo, so and then Ricardo,
Can you
and
say that
then
again with the O?
o Ricardo
Okay, it flows. Okay.
compra, compra, tap R in compra,
Compra.
compra carro caro.
Mhm. Okay.
Exactly.
They're the same.
Those are the
And
same.
this
Though,
one, and this one.
right.
Cool.
So o Ricardo compra carro caro.
O Ricardo compra carro caro.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm doing the right
And yeah, it
thing
was
in the
very
right
good. I mean,
place.
you're doing very well done. Yes, and I see that you have experience with Romance languages. For instance, when you pronounce these O's, you know, for English native English speakers, it's very tempting to say the O, right? Oh, Ricardo,
Oh,
the classic when
Ricardo.
they learn Ricardo. And it just, that little, thing just makes a huge difference. Just, like get used to make short sounds. In this case, it's U sound, o Ricardo compra carro
Mm.
caro, right? U,
Mm.
U, U, U. Just this U.
Ooh,
It will
ooh,
make a
ooh.
huge difference, right?
Mm.
And so again, pronunciation, it's very worth to invest some time in pronunciation, because then it will pay off big time, I think.
Definitely. Definitely. I feel like I've learned a lot just in this one episode talking. I've also noticed something else about this sentence. We've got two M's. Am I right in thinking this one is going to be nasal? This one, I'm going to do a different type of line, is going to be a normal M.
No, they are both nasal. So M
Oh.
to be me is either at the start of a word, as in mine. This is mother in Portuguese. Oh my God, now where is the till? I'm shifting between keyboards here.
I'm always
Mine.
endlessly impressed when people can shift between keyboards like that. So no worries.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, mm. Well, let's go to with another example, meu.
Mm.
So M at the start, so meu is my or mine. So either at the start me, or
Mhm.
in between vowels, as in amanhã. So
Uh-huh.
amanhã is tomorrow. You see, ama.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the normal m sound, right?
And
But
also
then
in that word, we've got a lot going on because we've got an NH
which is
and
also the
then
nasal sound.
also nasal, then we've got the A,
Yeah,
also nasal.
it's a quite a nasal word.
All up here.
Amanhã. Amanhã. Yeah, yeah.
Armenian.
Mm.
Armenian. Okay.
And the other M that you pointed out before is like M, compra. That M
Mm.
is followed by a consonant. Whenever M is being followed by a consonant, it will be a ing kind of sound. Compra. So that OM, it will be a nasal vowel sound. On,
Um,
compra, on.
okay.
And the same for and
Okay.
M at the end, as we saw before.
Okay. Okay. When would we see M not being nasal?
M, regardless of if it is m is a nasal sound, but
Mm.
it's a different nasal sound. M, you close your lips, and then you just release it, as in meu, mamá, amanhã, But this is a nasal sound. But
Mm.
but the other M's, this is a consonant nasal sound, The others are considered a vowel nasal sounds, en, in,
Right.
on, un. Any
Yeah.
vowel followed by M, and then the M is followed by a T, or by a consonant, sorry, or M at the end, then it will
Mm.
be vowel nasal sounds. Yeah,
Cool. Cool.
yeah, it's a lot of information here.
I mean, this is
This
great.
is
Like,
dance. This is
you
dance.
don't know how many times I'm going to rewatch this for myself. So I'm sure this will be really useful for loads of people watching this as well, because yeah, there's just so much. I mean, we could go on for hours, like really getting
Yeah.
in, but is there anything else major that we've missed that we need to cover before we wrap up?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered important sounds. So we covered the all the nasal sounds and diphthongs, the the nye.
Yeah.
I should say that I would like maybe just give as an advice for European Portuguese pronunciation. Just try to. We haven't talked about word stress. Word stress is important. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit, but try to understand the word stress patterns of European Portuguese, and just keep in mind that we, for the most part, our vowel sounds are closed. Like in Spanish, they have only 5 vowel sounds, and all vowels are very clear and loud.
Mm.
And in Portuguese, it doesn't work that way. We have many more vowel sounds, and they tend to be always on the close side of things. We only open our vowel sounds on stressed syllables. That's why it's important to understand word stress patterns in Portuguese, because that's when you have open vowel sounds. For the rest, you want to close more with a kind of closed mouth position. You want to be very
Mm.
relaxed in your jaw, and so I think it's very important to keep that in mind if you want to get good at European Portuguese pronunciation. You'll have to say a lot of this sounds relaxed jaw.
Ah.
E, O, E, U, and not so much A, E, I, O, U. Those are the Spanish A, E, I, O, U,
Ah.
right? There won't be so much A, E, I, O, U in Portuguese. There will be a lot of I, A, okay? And when the syllable is stressed, then you want to say A or E, but otherwise it's more yeah, so yeah, that's important. But again, yeah, it's also important to take it easy, and it's there's much to explore when it comes to pronunciation, all right? And it will take
Mm.
some time to integrate and to assimilate all these patterns. You need a lot of exposure to language. You need to rationally understand, as we went through all these spellings and sounds and rules. That's one part. But
Mm.
then you can't expect overnight that you will just reproduce all those patterns like automatically, right? You have to give yourself some time. You have to practice. We are going back to the basic key mindset of learning a language, right? Continuity, try to integrate language practice, language learning in your daily routines, try to do it every day. Try to expose yourself to the language. Listening is important. Even if just turn on the radio, even if you don't understand, if you are a beginner, turn on the radio, just listen to the sounds, try to reproduce the sounds. Whenever a sound is alien to you, is tricky, notice that and try to play around with your mouth, try to get closer to that sound, try to understand what you need to do with your tongue, with your teeth, whatever. And yeah, it's just you have to keep at it and to be curious and a little bit nerd, I would say. Yeah,
That should
yeah.
be my like Instagram bio. Curious and a little bit nerd.
Yeah.
Pedro, thank you so much. This has
Yeah,
been highly useful, educational, and I'm sure lots of people will have just had the same little moments that I have over the past time that we've been together. If people want to learn more with you, how can they do that?
well, they definitely should visit my website, my platform, and that's Portuguesepedia.com. And then I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, and again, you just search Portuguesepedia, and you will find me. So
Brilliant. And as I said at the start, it's a wonderfully huge resource that you've created. So, yeah, go check it out. Thank you
yeah.
very much.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure.
No problem. Muito obrigada.
Nada, obrigado.